What's up, brothers and sisters? Today we're working on a 2020 Honda Civic Sport. We're doing rear brake pads on it, and this model has the electronic parking brake, and I want to show you how to go through this with the electronic parking brake to replace the pads so you don't have to take this thing to the dealer, because that's what they want, but we're going to be smarter than them today. So let's start with your tools. What you're going to need: you're going to need a 19 millimeter. You can use an impact if you got it, or four-way, whatever you got. 19 millimeter on the lugs. I use my other impact. You're going to need a 7 millimeter hex head for the caliper with a ratchet. You're going to need a straight slot screwdriver. You're going to need a 5 millimeter hex head. You're going to need a 9 millimeter socket. You're going to need your brake pads, brake grease. I use axle grease, but you can also use Sil Glide if you have it. And you're going to need a wire brush or something similar to be able to clean this caliper bracket. So also, you're going to need this, or you're going to need something to compress the piston in, whatever your tool of choice is. I use C-channel vice grips. Use whatever you prefer. You can use a C-clamp, you can use a brake tool. All right, let's get started. Get some gloves on here. Try not to flash you guys with my white legs too much. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and get this wheel off. Move all these tools out of my way. Had them laid out so you guys can see what you need. So I always get a lot of comments about tools. You guys want me to do everything, want me to do the job for you too, give me a call. You can buy me a plane ticket, I'll come do it for you. All right, 19 minutes. Alright, there's the lugs. Let's get that wheel out of our way. So by the way, before we get started here, the emergency brake on this is off. Emergency brake is turned off. You don't ever do brakes with an emergency brake on. I had a few comments on some other videos, people asking me if the emergency brake is on or off. You would never do brakes on any car, on the rear of any car, with a parking brake on. Now if you're doing front brakes and you want the parking brake on to stop the vehicle from rolling, similar to a wheel chalk, that's fine. But if you're doing rear brakes, the parking brake is always going to be off, and this is no exception. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and get this little clip off here. So your new brake pads might come with one of these clips, they might not. I'm not really sure. I'll go ahead and get this one off. Actually, let me give you guys a wider view here. Let me switch it to the wide lens. There we go. All right, we got our clip off. Next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and get these caliper bolts. You got one here, and you got one down here. They have these caps, little plastic caps on them. You're just gonna pop those right off. And then behind there, there's gonna be two bolts. Those are gonna be your 7 millimeter hex. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get those off. Our top one. Let's go ahead and get our bottom one loose. Okay. So once you get those unscrewed, you're basically just going to take a straight slot screwdriver and kind of push them out of the way like this. There we go. And then you're just going to get your caliper off. It's going to pop right off there. So we get that off. I'm going to set it right here. Let's get our brake pads out of the way. All right, I'm gonna set my caliper there. So the electronic parking brake, basically when you push the button in the vehicle, this motor or actuator spins. There's a mechanism inside of the caliper. It's like a screw or a bolt, and this spins that screw or bolt, and it puts pressure outward, squeezing the pads together, which applies the parking brake. So essentially what the dealer wants you to do is bring it to them, or not the dealer, but a shop that has a good scanner, because you need a good scanner to put this into brake maintenance mode. They want you to bring it in, they'll hook it up to the computer, and the computer will automatically retract this motor, and it'll retract that bolt or that screw back into factory position, which is pulled all the way back. And that will allow you to replace the brakes on this. So what you can do if you don't have a scanner is you're going to come in, we're going to take this motor or this actuator off, and we are going to reset this manually with a 9mm socket. I'm going to show you how to do that. So we got our caliper off, got our brake pads out. Let's go ahead and get this motor off. So the motor is held on with the 7mm hex screws. There's 2 of them. There's going to be one right here. There's one. And there's another one on the back side. Probably hard to see, but there's one right there. Okay. We got those off. Now we're just gonna, this motor is just held on by those 2 screws, and there's a rubber O-ring in there. So you're just gonna wiggle it. If you need to, you can get a flathead screwdriver inside of there in that gap to kind of pry it a little bit if it doesn't feel like it's going. Just be careful, because that rubber O-ring, you don't want to damage that. That does keep water from getting inside of there, which you don't want. All right, so we got that off. So as you can see here, it's got this little spline drive right here. So that's what the motor spins, that retracts or engages the parking brake. So basically all we need to do is we need to pull that all the way back to factory position, which is where this would be when this thing left the factory with the brand new brake pads installed. So what you're gonna do is get your 9mm socket, you're gonna put it on here, and you're just gonna spin this. It's gonna go counterclockwise. So while you're spinning this, if you feel resistance and you see this piston start to push out, you need to stop and go the other way, because that's putting pressure going outwards. That's not what you want. You want this retracting, so you'll feel it. If you're going the right way, it'll come all the way back up. Also, another thing, don't be that guy that I see in the comments that forgets to turn the parking brake off in the middle of the job, and they have the caliper off and they engage the parking brake, or they hit the brake while this is off. Once you get this caliper out of position like this, do not get in the car and touch the brakes. You will push this piston out, and you will cost yourself a lot of money, because once that piston is pushed out, chances are you're not going to be able to get it back in without damaging the seal that's in here, and you're going to need to replace this caliper, and you don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. So just best rule of thumb is, once you get this apart, do not get in the car and touch the brakes, the parking brake, none of that. So that being said, don't say I didn't warn you. All right, so we got this, we spun this counterclockwise, or I'm sorry, actually we went clockwise with this one. So we went clockwise with it. We got it back all the way to factory position. It stopped. It'll come to a dead stop once you get this retracted all the way back. So once you get that, you're going to come back in here. I'm using my C-channel vice grips. Like I said, you can use C-clamp or whatever tool you prefer. And we're just going to push this piston in. It's going to go right in like it would on a normal caliper. See it going right in, and she's in. And that's it. That's the piston is in. It's good. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna grab my actuator. I'm gonna bring it back up here. We're gonna get this bolted back up. Make sure you pay attention to how you took this off, because it does need to go on a certain way, same way it came off. So we're just gonna slide this in. If for some reason you're having trouble getting those teeth to line up, you might need to spin that spline drive just a little bit to get the teeth to line up with this motor. This one went right on. Yours might be a little different. So basically, once you get that good, we're gonna go ahead and get our bolts back in it. one in, get another one started. Get these started by hand, and then I'll come back and get them tightened with the impact. They don't need to be like super tight. It's good. It's good. Okay. We're good there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get this out of the way. Just going to set it right there. So now you need your wire brush, or if you have a drill with, we use these pipe cleaner fitting things here. It's wire. And we're just going to clean this area where the brake pad sits in, right in here. We're going to get that clean. Check. It's good. Now we're going to go and get our brake pads out. So on these, there is an inboard and an outboard pad. What that means is there's a different pad that goes on the inside versus the outside. So this is going to be your inboard pad. It's going to have this spring on it, and it's also going to have the wear indicator metal tab, which is going to go at the top. So the other side I already did. I made sure to put the pad, this wear indicator, you want this to go at the top of that. And they're just going to sit in there. They sit in there nice and free like that. That's what you want. They shouldn't be in there tight. There should be no pressure on them. They should be able to move around freely, just like that. So we got that. It's good. We're going to go ahead. We're going to bring our caliper back over. We're going to set it on, set it in place. Good. I'm going to pull these slide pins out. So actually, we missed a step. Let me back up. If you have brake grease, let me show you where to put that, which we do. It rolled away. All right, so this is our Permatex brake grease. Essentially, you want to put this anywhere that the caliper contacts the pad, so you can put it on the ears of the pad here, on the back side. And then you can put a little bit in the middle of the inboard pad where the piston on the caliper touches it. This essentially dampens the vibration to try to keep down on noise from the brakes. That's all it does. I don't always use this. If we're replacing the rotors, I don't ever use this, but we're not replacing rotors on this one, so we'll go ahead and use it. Our slide pins. So these are a little bit different than other vehicles. This is a caliper bolt and slide pin all in one. As you've seen, it just slides out of there. So what we want to do is we want to put some grease on this, because these should be able to move freely. The caliper slides on these, essentially slides in and out like this. So we want to put a little bit of grease on these. I use high temp axle grease on slide pins. You can use Sil Glide if you want, but that's what I use. I'm just going to brush a little bit on. I'm going to slide it into place. Okay, then I'm gonna come back, a ratchet. Don't ask me about torque specs either. You can look them up online if you need them. I'm not here to do the job for you guys. Come on now. Basically just gonna go ahead and get these tightened up. Tight. tight. It's good. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get our little plastic caps that we popped off. These. We're gonna go ahead and make sure we replace those to keep water from getting in there. Check. So these set of pads, for whatever reason, didn't come with the new clip. This is gonna be the old clip. There's nothing wrong with it. But what I am gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit of grease to these little tabs here that slide in here, because I have seen it quite often where these kind of get stuck and corroded in there and they break off inside there. And a lot of times you just have to replace the caliper because you can't get it out of that hole. It breaks off. So I always like to grease them just to make sure that that doesn't happen. I hate to replace a caliper over a 10-cent piece of hardware clip. So put a little grease on it, be good. Or anti-seize. If you have anti-seize, you can use that as well. Just clip it, and that's it. She's good to go. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna get the wheel on. I'm gonna let it down off the jack. I'm gonna pump up the brakes. I'm gonna go in. I'm going to test the electronic parking brake, make sure everything works as it should, which we shouldn't have any problems. You'll run it through a couple cycles just to check all is well. If for some reason you get in the vehicle and the light is on, which it should not be, come back and check your plug. Make sure that you didn't jar your plug loose that's on this motor. That can happen. So that's the first thing to check. But other than that, that's it. Another video, save you guys some money. See ya.